everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Muse by Mariah, the podcast. I have a special guest today. We're finally getting into the new year. So I'm trying to bring in some topics that are going to help us to dive deep into this year, kind of reflect and get rid of shit that we don't need anymore. So I have Isabel here who is going to be getting into some energy clearing methods, which is like perfect because I feel like with the new year, I'm trying to clean out my closet. That's like my positive energy thing that I'm working on right now. Like I have trash bags of clothes that I'm getting rid of. But I would love to hear exactly what your background is, how you got into this line of work, and then we can kind of really dive deep into this topic.
Yeah, I feel like this line of work kind of found me rather than me finding
Mm-hmm.
it. I've had my intuitive abilities, my psychic abilities since I've been like 6 years old, and probably long story short, it's like I hit my 30s and it was out of control, and I just wanted to learn how to shut it off. Like that's it. I didn't want I didn't want it. I was like, take it away. So
Mm-hmm.
I found somebody who was teaching Reiki, which I had no clue what that was. Went to class, and as I was sitting in class, I learned not everybody sees and hears and feels spirit all day long. So I
Wait,
took
how old were you
classes.
when you went to this class?
I was in my 30s. I was early
Oh, in your
30s.
30s. Okay.
So I was early 30s. I was probably maybe even just 30. And I took that as a sign, like, this is it. Like, there has to be a reason why I have this. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time I wrapped up the practitioner level 2, I was out the door with my first client that day, and I have been doing it ever since.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh,
kind of
that's
how it has, and it's
awesome.
grown. It's grown into life
Mhm.
coaching. It's grown into other modalities. It's grown into a lot of different things.
So when the time frame between when you were 6 and 30, did you not try to harness,
Understand?
like, or learn more about this gift that you had? You just
Yeah,
kinda, like, were
no,
putting it on the back burner for,
it
like,
was the whole
years?
like we don't talk about Bruno type of thing from Disney.
Okay.
Because, like, growing up, especially I'm Hispanic in our household,
Mhm.
it I remember being 6 and telling my mom what I labeled it as God, like, "I hear God."
Mhm.
And she was like, "That's great. Why don't you just, maybe you can help us out and send some prayers up." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay." Like, that was it. And then a couple months go by, maybe like a year. I was in the kitchen. I see my grandmother who passed when she was 32 years old. So obviously never met her. I told my grandfather, Grandma Julie is in the kitchen. He was like, I know, she's always there. And
Mhm.
so I grew up thinking that this was such a normal thing because the people I confided in never reacted to it.
Right.
So I didn't necessarily harness it. I just grew up interacting with it and
Right.
it was really got scary in moments. Like it was really kind of out of control at certain moments, especially in my teens. And at that point, my dad taught me how to meditate to kind of like bring my
Mhm.
energy down.
Oh, wow. I'm Puerto Rican too. So I kind of grew up in that like witchy sense.
Mhm.
My aunt on my mom's side, she is like a little psychic-y. So she has read me a couple times. And then I also have on my dad's side, they do kind of like the psychic too, or they'll just feel something and they'll call me and they'll be like, something's wrong with Mariah. And I'm like, don't tell me that. But I always feel like especially the women in my family, we're very in touch with their
Mhm.
intuition. So I can't even imagine if any of us had like really spiritual gifts, but I can imagine how difficult it would be not understanding the capacity of like what you're seeing and hearing on a day-to-day basis for all these years. And I feel like also in the Hispanic culture, it is not something that's like super turned down, which is a good thing. Like it is something that we believe in. It's not just like, you're crazy because I've met with some people and they're like, "Oh, I was told I was crazy for so many
Mhm.
years," when really I was given this amazing gift. So I think it's amazing to speak with people and have people on here who are sharing that energy and that light with other people and being able to connect and have other people resonate with it too. So I think this episode is going to be great. I'm like so excited to
Awesome.
speak with you. So we are going to get into kind of energy clearing as a whole. And I know on your website, you talk about these energy modalities. What are those for people who have absolutely they're tuning in, they don't know anything that we're talking about energy clearing. They probably just, I don't even know if they're like super, super beginner. what is energy modality? How would you explain that to them?
So I'd first sum up about what an energy clearing necessarily is. I think people have different names for it, but definitely what it is kind of like how you were talking earlier about emptying and cleaning out your closet, but
Mhm.
just imagine yourself as the closet. And
Mm.
it's like, let's take away everything that we just no longer serves us and help us to create more space for those things that we want to call into our life. And we don't realize that even though we grow from certain things in our life, that energy can still reside in us, which is why we may create the same mistake or the same pattern over and over. So if we can just remove that out and bring in and create more space, then we have a clearer body, a clearer
Mhm.
sense of our whole being. And so there's different, what I call modalities are different, ways of giving these energy clearings. A lot of them come from Eastern medicine. Some people have, learned them on their own and then have taught others, but there's just different ways of doing this. And so I've been trained. My first one was Reiki, which
Mhm.
is from Japan. And I was trained in that and how to give Reiki. And then later on, I was trained into Theta, which is a lot of subconscious programming, breath works, which is utilizing your breath. So when I say that I utilize different energy modalities, it's kind of like I have a toolbox and I just grab different tools that are needed to bring in order to help that person become the highest version of themselves, the
Do you
clearest.
base the tools that you use off of each individual person, or do you kind of have a set routine for each client that you see?
I have a set routine, whereas like you're going to come in and you're going to see me do a set routine. But as far as me interacting with your spirit team and the way I'm delivering it on my side, it's different for
Yeah.
everybody. Everybody's different. There's times where, you can see a drum up the back. I'll maybe pull out
Mhm.
my drum. There's times where I'm, maybe bringing light language. There's times where I'm just doing a lot of subconscious reprogramming and beliefs. So everybody is different.
Mhm.
We're all different. You can't say like, I can't treat,
Right.
just like a doctor can't treat one client the same way. It's the same
Right.
thing. I'm not a doctor, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I actually want to, for people who are listening and have no idea what Reiki is, can you just talk a little bit about it? Because I've been I've been in the spiritual realm for like a long time, but I haven't really dived deep into it. So I'm like going into my third year now. It's 2021. I kind of really
Mhm.
started connecting with my spiritual side and all of that, but I've never done a Reiki session. And I don't know why. I've done
Oh.
everything else in my entire life, and I don't know why I have not done a session yet. But for people who don't know what that is, if you can just briefly
Sure.
describe what that is.
So Reiki was founded in Japan by who I was trained under, Dr. Usui. I wasn't trained under him. I'm part of his lineage, meaning that he taught the teachers before me. Dr. Sui basically wanted to know how Jesus and Buddha healed. That's pretty much what it is. To sum this up, make it a really quick story. So he went on top of a mountain, sat there for a while, meditated for 21 days, and he kind of got this download of information. I got these signs, I got these symbols, I understand how it happens. Basically, he realized as he was coming down the mountain, he hurt his foot, grabbed his foot, and realized like, oh my gosh, my bleeding stopped. Gets down further down the mountain, helps another person who had like toothache and care and took away her pain, and so on. It goes forward and forward. So he spent years in the monastery just teaching. That's it. That's where he taught. That's where he gave, the healings at, and etc. And then it got passed down the lineage into basically coming into Western society. It's been around for the early
Mhm.
1900s. But it's a very familiar energy. And what it is basically is utilizing what we call the life force energy around us. So that is in the plants, it's in the trees, it's in the animals, it's in everything that we interact with. It's harnessing that energy so that we're able to harness that energy to help us heal and clear out, like I said, what no longer is like needed.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what it does. And so it reaches different energy points within your body to help release that.
I feel like I see a lot with Reiki, the chakras. Do you use that as well in your work or?
Yeah. Because the basic level of a lot of Reiki is taught in your chakra work. We go
Okay.
through, that's kind of like an entry point of like, let's start here and going through the chakras. So I definitely use the chakras and I want to make sure they're
Mhm.
balanced and they're healed and they're doing all of that. But the way that I was taught is what's called quantum. So I
Okay.
utilize as far as source and the quantum level and bringing that healing through. So it's a little bit different, but yes,
Okay.
I do the chakras, but I go deeper than just the chakras.
Interesting. I always tied Reiki with the chakras or like crystals too, utilizing crystals to kind of
I do.
connect with the different chakras in order to, like you said, balance and release those energies that need to be released. Do you use crystals too or
Not too much. When I
not too
first
much?
started, like 10 years ago, I would hold the crystals in my hand and sometimes maybe place them on the clients, but honestly, I don't use them a lot, only for like my own personal usage.
Interesting. Now I have to ask because I'm close. You're in Philly, right?
No, I'm in
Oh,
California.
you're in California. Oh my God, sorry. I had someone else who was in
That's okay. I'd love to
Philly.
be from Philly.
But, so I'm, like, really close to New York City, so obviously I'm not in New York City, but for people who are in the city, I know you talked about connecting really with nature and the energy, and it's obviously kind of difficult to
Yeah.
find nature in, like, those big cities. So how do you see and pull from these external sources if, there might not be an abundance of it? Like, can you just give us, like, a
That's
little
a great question.
rundown of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the city, by the way. Like, that's for me, I'm like, I'm always in LA because that's like,
Mhm.
I love it.
Yes, so
Um,
you know what I'm talking about. Having
yeah,
that big, crazy, fast-paced city life, I feel like it's so difficult to slow down and calm down and connect to nature. New York City has some points you can go to, but the ratio between city and
yeah.
nature is very minimal. So,
It doesn't mean that you need to go run in the ocean and go on a mountain hike when I say
okay,
connect to
yeah,
nature. That's for number 1.
okay.
I think that that's what probably people
Or
vision,
put your
like,
feet
let's
in the
go.
sand.
Yeah, we don't that'd be awesome. It's great
Yeah.
when you do it, right? But that's not what's needed. When it's connecting with nature is as easy as I'm just gonna take a walk around the block and let the sun beam on me.
Mhm,
Like, that's it. The air and the sun and the moon is really what it means in
mm,
essence to connect with nature. I know the city isn't always full of like grass and things like
mhm,
that, but if you have a tree and you can sit under the tree or go to your local park, there's tons of parks. Sit on a
mhm,
bench and just be present in that energy alone. If you can sit on the grass and have a picnic, then great. Finding it where you can. But if you can't find it, then it's not that hard as like, I'm just going
mhm.
to go outside and this is my intention. The power of intentions is so
Yeah,
strong. So I always tell people, it's like, just set the intention that I am walking out this door and my intention is to sit with nature and to get clarity or walk with nature and get clarity and just start walking.
mhm.
And it's that way. And it doesn't have to be an hour or 2 hours and it could be 5 minutes. It could be
Okay,
what you have in your seconds.
doable.
That's because the intention that
Mhm,
we hold is so strong. It's not,
right.
yeah, we don't need
Super.
forever and ever.
Super dope, because I was just thinking, I'm like, especially now in the wintertime in New York, it's, like, so depressing, and, like, I work a 9 to 5, so I go in to work, it's dark, I come home, it's dark, I
Mm,
don't have windows in my office, so it's literally like a prison cell, but thankfully, I'm able to, like, walk outside during the day and get some fresh air if I need to,
yeah.
but it's just so dark and dreary, so it's really hard to connect with nature, which I love going on walks. I love to run outside. But during this season, it's really depressing. And you brought up earlier the moon. Do you use like the moon cycles in your work too?
I
Just
use the moon, so I host a lot of like either guided meditations during full moons or new moons. So
okay.
I'll use it to harness energy for whatever it is I'm either calling in or
Love
getting
that.
rid of.
I love
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, I always do. I know the full moon just passed by the time this is posted. Not that full moon. But I always do like moon water. I'll put
Yes,
the
I
bottle
do.
of water. I'll set intentions and then I'll drink it the next day. That's like my favorite little routine. And then I clear or I charge my crystals in the moonlight. Like I'm a full moon goddess energy. It's always my favorite time of the month. Um,
I love the
but
new moon.
and the new moon too, and yes, I do like a new moon bath ritual, and then I'll do like my manifestations and stuff during the new moon. But sometimes they come up so quick and I'm like, "Oh my God, I missed it." Stress, like but anyway, it's like a day-to-day thing, but I just thought I'd ask that because I find it so fascinating how many different modalities that you use in your line of work. And another one that you talk about on your website is subconscious reprogramming, which sounds
Yes.
like super scary. So I want to know more about it.
Well, most of us don't realize, even in like psychology, if you study it, that you actually utilize more of your subconscious mind than your conscious
Mhm.
mind. And so we have to kind of connect with that part of us, that subconscious reprogramming. And in your subconscious is where your beliefs are. This is where all of your beliefs are stored, and it's where your habits are stored. And there's times in our life where we are trying to cultivate maybe the highest version of ourselves, right? We
Mhm.
have these goals, we want to call this loving, we want to do all of this, and then all of a sudden we're like, why do I keep, like I said earlier, like why do I
Mhm.
keep repeating the same pattern? And often it can be because in our subconscious, due to either the way of our upbringing was, right? Either society, also peers, circumstances that have happened in our life, you create these belief systems about yourself, like I'm not worthy of success, or I'm not smart, or I'm not capable. And so what we don't realize is that subconsciously you will always constantly try to prove that as correct.
Right.
So what I do is basically like I go in, I find the connection of where this belief started, utilizing my intuitiveness. Like I can kind of see like, oh, this is the age, this is actually the circumstance, this is what
Mhm.
happened. Um, and then I pull it out and I'll be like, this is what it was. Like that needs to be removed, like the belief of I'm not worthy. And I'll replace it, which anyone can do, reframing, which you do with
Okay.
affirmations, with
Right.
I am worthy, or
Mhm.
I am this. And so there's a lot of different ways without an energy clearing that you could reprogram your own subconscious mind with just having the awareness of like, what are these limited beliefs that I'm holding on to in my life?
I think it's difficult, not especially for someone, let's say they're going through a really rough time. They're trying to transition their lifestyle and are
Mhm.
trying to look more on, I always call it like a spiritual outlook, but it's really just like connecting with who we are as human beings
Yeah.
and the gift that we give. Like it's not just some like whack, crazy people thing that people do. Like this is genuinely us connecting as humans. But for someone who's jumping into this line of work and they don't know where to start, besides doing affirmations, is there anything else that you recommend that like a soup if they, let's say they also don't are not planning on speaking with anyone professionally at the moment, that they kind of want to just take baby steps on their own to see how it is? Because that's kind of what I did. And I started with
Yeah.
affirmations too and reading. I read a lot of self help books before I really dived into the work. But is there anything else that you recommend besides the affirmations?
I think the biggest thing for me is that I would recommend as as a spiritual person, but also as someone that does this, like I life coach for like other companies and
Hmm.
different things like that, is that change is always about your awareness. It's all that's the first step in creating change within yourself, right? Just like you read the self-help books, it was like,
Hmm.
I'm just having this awareness into all these different habits that I have. And so the biggest thing I could say as people that are stepping into this is starting to really learn how to listen to yourself, which a lot of people don't know how, and is starting to be comfortable with what that feels like for you. So the very basic terminology in spirituality that I would say is like go into your heart. Let's not forget the third eye. Forget all of those complex dialogues.
Hmm.
Just go into your heart and just breathe and see what that feels like. And really become aware. Is it uncomfortable? Is it comfortable? And start asking yourself those questions. Why does this make me feel this way? Or maybe a reaction with somebody. Why is this trigger me? And start
Hmm.
becoming aware of those aware, like just being aware. And I would say, yeah, affirmations are great, but also, like I said earlier, just intentions, like
Right.
starting to ask yourself those questions and then setting your intentions, like either like using the affirmations, or I'm going to go work out and release this energy. I'm going to
Hmm.
release what doesn't serve me, or I'm going to go for a run. And as I'm running, all this is washing behind me. Like just starting to kind of cultivate more of like an intentional practice in your life, whether that's I'm going to breathe, just breathe. Forget
Hmm.
about doing some deep meditation. I'm just going to breathe in and out. And as I breathe out, I'm going to release what doesn't serve me. So allowing yourself in some way just to become more comfortable in your
Hmm.
skin.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like you're probably a huge advocate for journaling.
I do it every morning.
I was gonna say because all of the like, for me, I know some people don't like writing, they don't enjoy it, and it's not something that's like pressure, you have to do it, but everything that you're saying right now is, to me, I would love to journal it. Like, I think it's
Mhm.
difficult. I know, what is it, mirror work it's called, like speaking to
Yeah.
yourself. I don't know, I can't do it. I like can't
I
take
can't do it
myself
either.
I can't take myself seriously when I do it. I'm like, I can't, like it's not happening. So I'm like, I'd rather just write it all down. But I know that's not like some people's cup of tea, but mirror work is like a huge thing. I read
Mhm.
about it all the time and I've tried it and it's just I just laugh. I can't take it seriously. But journaling is, I think, also if you don't have a passion for it, I think just writing a couple sentences, like you said, if you set your intentions, let's say five intentions, I don't know, for the year, I think that's pretty easy,
Yeah.
pretty basic to get to. And that's something that anybody can do. Even if you're not even interested in this line of work, you can just do it anyway. But
Yeah.
let's say there's people who are already kind of in this work and they are looking to connect with a professional like yourself. Can you walk us through kind of like what a session would look like, how you kind of do you like view the person, you get a feeling for it, how you want it to go, and then you just do your
Yeah, so
work?
usually, like for me, like a session with everybody's different, by the way. So everybody's going to run their sessions
Mhm.
completely different. I do a lot distance, so I do a lot through Zoom. That's a lot of how my sessions are. And FYI, like any energy work that you do with anyone can be done in distance just because of energy is energy. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So a session with me is me and you coming onto Zoom, introducing ourselves, and me kind of asking you like what brought you here today and just letting you kind of open up. I find that people will just either pour out or sometimes I'll be like, you know what? Let's just go into session and then we'll talk about it after. The whole time that you're sitting with me for about 30 minutes. I play music, I shut my camera off. You can relax on your side and listen to the music, and I will clear your energy, keep notes. We come back on
Mm.
after the 30 minutes and we go through all of the notes. And the notes are what I removed, what I cleared, beliefs that I'm bringing in. Just different stuff, helping you find the root because we always want to get to the root of things, right? I
Mhm.
can say, oh, I removed sadness, but where'd the sadness start?
Right.
How did it start? What's the reason? So getting to the root and pulling it out. And then we talk about it. And depending on if it's a coaching, because sometimes they'll add coaching, then I'll coach you through how to continuously do this on your own.
Interesting. Do you play a specific type of music, like frequency levels, or is
Literally,
it
I used to, yes. I used to play
okay?
like angel music or frequency music, but now that I'm on Zoom, they changed their they're gonna laugh. They changed their licensing.
Okay.
So you have to use their music. So I
Oh,
just
okay.
use their Zen
The
playlist
Zoom.
now.
Interesting.
But it works.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
was gonna say, is it like Beyonce or something? Because I probably wouldn't focus.
Yeah. No, but, funny enough, if you ever see me before a class, like before I actually go teach an in-person class, I will probably be bumping the biggest trap music ever. It's all
Oh
trap,
my
complete trap.
love that. I literally love that. I think that's so funny. Oh my god. So for okay, let's say I don't know if you're like able to read my energy through the
Oh my
camera right
gosh, like, I'm
now.
I wasn't
Were you
ready to
just thinking that?
No, I'm just laughing because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I had a feeling you're gonna ask me to read you," but I was, like, not ready to read you. Okay.
Oh, if not, we
Yeah,
totally
we
don't
can do it.
have to. I just wanted to see if you're able to see something or
Yeah.
feel something.
Alright,
Because
give
I'm
me a
like, I'm also a very open book too. So
okay. Let me just see really quick what's coming up for you, so give me a second as I'm tapping in. So the first thing I do is always call on your higher self, your angels, and your guides. Um, so let me just call on your higher self, your angels, and guides and just see what's going on. Okay. So I'm just looking at something right now, so give me a second as I'm trying to see what this is. So, okay, you said you're an open book, so hopefully you are, I don't want to step on any toes.
that's
The
fine.
first thing that I'm really brought into is it was kind of like I'm going in, like I don't go into your energy, but I'm looking down at you. And so it's kind of like this last, let's say 2023 for you was really a time of you kind of like, I'm really stepping into my worth, but you're also still finding it, especially when it
Hmm.
comes into your expression. And so they're like, she's really still learning how to express herself fully. You've done a really good job, but you still need to express yourself fully. So if I was was to work on you right now, it's like I'm looking at a little bit of where you know what you are supposed to be doing as far as like how to express myself and the power of my expressing myself, but you're holding yourself back just a little bit. And it's like,
Mhm.
I fully know this, but I don't really want like I'm just timid into stepping in fully. Like I'm holding this timidness of like, okay, I'm kind of like moving forward and I want to move
Mhm.
forward, but yet like I'm holding myself back. And so like what you need to do, and it's going to be really not it's not going to be comfortable for you. It's that you are waiting for like things just like, oh, that's funny. I'm watching like little pebbles being lit up, like, here's your step, here's your step, here's your
Mhm.
step. And they're like, no, you got to jump. You
Okay.
actually have to make the vulnerable move and switch, and you have to just then and it's uncomfortable for you. That's being
Right.
vulnerable, and you haven't done that yet. So in working with you, I would like click it. I basically cut it right now, and
Okay.
I would push you forward.
Interesting. So then for first of all, that is like aligns with it. So I feel like me as a person, I have definitely came into who I am and my worth. And I've been put in many situations this year that has tested it. And I feel like I came out the other side
Yeah,
good for a majority of them. But there was like a recent one where I was like, oh, I know I'm not making the right decision right now. But my thing is, and it's always been my thing for years, is that I wait for a situation to just slap me in the face before I'm like, okay, I'm done now. Like, I need you to
mhm,
like slap me before I can like wake up, even though I see it before it happens. So this recent situation, it was kind of the same thing. I was like waiting for the slap, and then I decided to jump. Um, but I also am comfortable, but I know in my mind I don't want to be comfortable, like, I want to be able to take that leap, but it's like that fear is holding me back, and when we talked about subconscious reprogramming earlier, I just, saw a video about how our subconscious is so powerful, and I'm a really big dream empath. I get messages in my dreams all the time from my team of light, my spirit guides, whoever, and I usually get them in the form of animals,
mhm,
sometimes symbols too, which I read is a popular way that they can send you signs. But I read that when you have dreams like in the middle of the night between like midnight and 3 a.m., that's your subconscious showing you like what's going to happen. But dreams that happen like right before you wake up for the day, that's fear based. And I was
oh,
like, it makes so much sense because the dreams that I have, I'm always waking up in between the hours of like 2:30 and maybe 3:34 latest.
mhm.
Um, and I feel like I connect so much with that side and I know I'm holding back, but still it's like
It's
that
okay.
it's the fear of not knowing how it's going to work out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm an Aries. I'm a Virgo
Yeah.
moon and rising. I like my schedules. I like to know what is happening 24/7. So that fear of not knowing, I can't just go with the flow.
So
But
one of the things that I would really tell you besides like, your affirmations are always like I ams, right? But
mhm,
here's the thing that people don't realize, even in your subconscious programming, is that we get used to residing within ourselves in a certain energy. Like this is what, like you said, like I'm
mhm,
content. This is what I'm used to. This is how it is. So when your body, mind, whatever, this is psychology, guys, not spirituality, but
mhm.
it's still the same. When we go to step forward into something else, our body goes into fight or flight. Like it goes like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
even if it's a
Yeah.
positive change, your body goes,
Mhm,
wait a second, what are you doing? We're not used to this. We're used to these
mhm,
habits. We're used to this way of thinking. So that's what reprogramming means, right? Is I'm going to start reprogramming it so that you're used to this energy. So two things I would actually recommend for you is giving yourself, so imagining yourself like going into your heart, breathing, feeling that uncomfortability maybe a little bit, and then
mhm,
giving yourself permission. Actually giving yourself, I give myself permission to move forward. I give myself permission to embody the fullest of me. Whatever permissions come up, to give yourself that permission to say, you're allowed to do this. It's okay. And so when you
mhm,
start giving yourself that permission slowly and slowly, you're like kind of training yourself, like, oh, I am okay. This is okay. Like, I'm allowed to do
mhm.
this. This is right. The other part is that I tell people is go sit with your future self. Actually step in and embody that version of you. Imagine yourself putting your fingers in their fingers, your toes in their toes. And the more you do this, it's almost like you're reprogramming your energy field so that your energy now is aligned and you're like, wait a second, I don't feel so scared, vulnerable
Right.
because I'm energetically used to this. So,
Mhm. No, that's a great because a lot of the affirmations that I use in my journaling or if I am meditating on it, it's I'm open and ready to receive, like waiting
Mhm.
for these things to happen to me instead of me kind of taking that leap. So I think that I'll change up my little affirmations and I have a whole
Yes.
thing I'm going to be doing this week that I'll definitely incorporate. Thank you
Love it. You're
for
welcome.
sharing that. And for me and like anybody else that you work with to end a session, is there certain things that you recommend? Like, do you recommend people see you for 3 sessions, or do you kind of invite people to come when they feel like they need an energy release? Like, how does the
It
end of a session work?
Yeah, it really depends what comes up for every client. So
Okay.
sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? Like if you're interested, I do shadow work coaching. We need to dive in. Let's meet more
Mm-hmm.
often. Sometimes it's maybe they're trying to up level themselves, and I'll tell them, hey, if you really want to, we can do more energy clearings and I have packages. And some people, I'm like, you know what? See me when you feel like you need to see me. So everybody's completely different. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like a, hey, I need to see you
Gotcha.
once a month,
Mm-hmm.
everything, once a
Okay.
week, however it is. Everyone's
No, that's
different.
awesome because I think that also alleviates some pressure for people. People may
Yeah,
feel like they need to come when they want to come. Like I've set a boundary with myself. Like I would see a psychic every week if like
I
I would just love to see one every single week. But I set a boundary with myself and I'm like, I'm only gonna see one once a year and that's it because I don't want to pressure myself into a scenario or put myself out there for things that I need to work on my own
yeah,
instead of relying on someone else. But there's always times where you need help, which is also why I get so much great information when I record episodes like this for my podcast because I learn so much and about all these different topics that I'm able to share too. And then it makes me want to take steps into that line of work or to start incorporating some of the things that you and my other guests have said into my life too, which I know is what listeners want to hear too, because they want to be able to resonate and put that into their either their life path, their day-to-day routine, etc. But I think everything that you share today it's been so amazing. And like I said, I try to do not only mental things to help like energy clearing, but the physical, like cleaning out my closet right now. I'm trying to make space for new things to be able to come in and go. But if there is one major takeaway that you would want listeners to get from this episode, or just like an end thing that you would like to say? I would love to hear it. I'm sure the listeners would love to hear it as well.
I think the biggest thing, and this is kind of like seems like an overall. Um, Today, there's just several clients, and I think it just resonates with this too. Is that letting yourself be compassionate no matter where you're at right now in your life? Like, be compassionate towards yourself and learning how to listen and really sit within your own body. I think that we are constantly like outside of our bubble all the
Mhm.
time. And even in some spiritual work, they're always teaching to like go outside, go outside. But it's like, no, learning how to really be comfortable in your skin is where you're going to start making that change. But just be patient.
Mhm.
There isn't a rule book. There isn't a, one way only. Everybody's different.
Mhm. And
Everyone's different.
everyone's on their own timeline too. I think
Everyone's on
that's
their
because
own
people
timeline.
kind of with social media nowadays, it's easy to compare and to base things off of the
Yes.
things that you see online.
Mhm.
But it is a journey and it is not linear at
No,
all.
not at all. Not at
So
all.
being patient, I definitely 1,000% agree because there's times where you feel like the roller coaster is on the down and it's like, where is the up? But the up always comes. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to be patient. And thank you so much,
You're
Isabel,
welcome.
for joining. Before we end, I would love if you can share any places that you would like listeners to check you out, follow you on, etc., whatever you like.
Yeah, you can follow my website, isabelhealing.com. So all of my information is on there. My Instagram is Isabel period Frank with an E. And yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram. You can TikTok me or my website.
Thank you. And if you missed any of that, it's going to be in the show notes of the episode so you can check it out there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you made it to the end of this episode, we appreciate you. We feel your energy and thanks. So we will thank you again, Isabel, and I will talk to you guys next time.